What up, everybody? Brand new episode of R2C2 with a special co-host this week. Cece is out west having to attend a funeral. So we are lucky enough to have basically as wonderful a co-host fill-in as we could possibly hope for. She's done it before. She's back again. The greatest point guard in the history of the WNBA. Sue Bird. You know what? That was a better version of it, Sue.
That's a like foghorn.
That's
a foghorn.
Thanks for coming back, friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are these the new Seattle Storm warm-ups that you're wearing?
No, these are just team issued sweats. You know, you play long enough, you've got all the team issued. I should start bringing out the archives.
You should.
Dangerous.
Do you like have all the years like team issue gear? Or, like, when do you get rid of it, or do you keep specific years?
No, I get rid of it it gets, you wear it a lot, and it's summertime, so meaning sweats in the summer. It's a lot happening here. The only sweats that I've kept are my college sweats, and those things are hilarious.
Wait, you actually have, like, from when you were at UCONN?
Yeah,
we have like year 2000 sweatpants.
Absolutely. Drives Megan up a wall, but I refuse to throw certain items out. So at Connecticut, we had the cage, which is where they keep all the stuff. And there was like, we called them the grays. No other way to describe them. They're gray. They're the grays. Anybody who went to UConn and played a sport knows them. They're the best things that ever happened. They're so comfortable.
Yeah.
One year they were made Russell made them. Another year I think they were Champion. Another year Errol Pascal came in and tried to redo it. But there's these amazing OG. It just says Connecticut Athletics on it, on the shirt and then on the shorts. I still have multiple shirts, multiple shorts. So I have those. But then I also have the team issued Nike sweats that we got. They were so comfortable. I was like, no way I was throwing them out. Now they're ginormous. I mean, I could fit 3 of me in them, which makes me wonder what was happening back in college. But I refuse to throw them out. So those I have. The Storm ones, they come and go.
Do you wear them often?
No, I never wear them. I wore them once when the NCAA tournament started. I jokingly came out of the bedroom into the living room. I was like, yo, I'm ready for the game. And that's the first time I've had them on in years.
You know what I think about sometimes? Like, I walk outside looking like an absolute bum all the time. Like, I never like some of the things, if I'm taking Evie for a walk in the morning, I'm like, the combination of things that I've adorned myself with are just so alarming. And I always think about this, like, if you are someone who is either a big time celebrity or, is known for their fashion, like the pressure to have to dress yourself at least a little bit every time you step outside the door. Do you feel this pressure?
I don't know.
You're like a fashion
maybe if you're
at this point.
I don't know about that. Like, maybe if you're Kardashian level, but I don't know. What's that one section in Us Weekly? Stars, they're just like us. It's like everyone, goes to get the mail or walks their daughter or goes to get a coffee. You're catching me on. I practice right after this, so I'm in full.
You're full Storm gear.
As they say in soccer, I'm a full kit wanker right now. Just full kit. I've got it all on.
You got your basketball shorts. You got your practice shirt. I know. It's funny though.
I'm headed out.
I do think about this because I'm just like, I just leave the house wearing whatever I want. So a lot of times, if I'm looking particularly bummish, so you don't feel this pressure ever.
Not like your everyday, going to the drugstore. No, I don't feel the pressure at all. I'm like, whatever, you wear whatever you wear. Throw some stuff on.
So, but if you're going to an event where people are going to see you, or if you're walking to the arena for your games, like your runway walk, then you feel it.
Runway, yeah. No, even that, I joke that there's pressure, but it's I have fun with it now. I'm starting to really enjoy putting it all together and figuring out the outfit. So it's like, it's not too stressful. If you have a road trip, it can be a lot, but
yeah. I know, I'll always check a bag. I can never carry on.
I don't even know. People that don't check when the trip is longer than like 3-4 days. I cannot even, my hairspray alone. I'm like, what am I going to do?
I think my record is, 13 days I went once with you're
only just wearing carry on. Yeah, but you're just wearing the same clothes over and over.
Yeah, at that point, it was like, all right, I have like maybe one pair of jeans. I have like a couple workout shorts and shirts, and then I have like a few tops I could change with the jeans. Out?
Yeah. You're re-wearing the workout? I can't.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of nasty. Yeah.
I mean,
usually
maybe
get 2 wears out of them. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can slide on the shorts, but the shirt?
You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking 13 days. I think it might have been 11. I think I did 11
Still.
with only carry on. Yeah. Yeah. It's still pretty good. International, too. International, Sue. Yes.
And by the way, I don't like even rolling it in the airport. It's just like and then you got to get on the flight early. You got to worry about your boarding, where you board to make sure you have overhead space. Like, oh God, it's like traveling stressful enough. I don't need that.
I know. I do often like wonder about the pressure I feel to board early. And it's simply because I'm carrying on.
Oh yeah. It's the only reason.
It's the only reason. Otherwise I would just walk on last second. Hey, you were, on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition.
Now, speaking of clothes.
Yeah, speaking of clothes. You weren't wearing a lot of them.
I took them off. It came out great.
Yeah. Like that's an iconic issue, right? Like it's every year, Sports Illustrated Swimsuit. When you get a call about that, is it exciting?
Oh yeah, for sure. Even in one of the interviews that I did, I mean, I think anyone my age or like in this generation remembers the commercials. And it was like Sports Illustrated was always trying to like sling their magazine to everybody and being like, oh, you get, I don't even remember now, like 32 issues a year. And of course, you know which one comes with that. If you get a subscription, the swimsuit edition, like that was.
I remember that.
Of course.
Yeah. And a sweatshirt. You get a sweatshirt and the swimsuit.
Sweatshirt. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like an iconic magazine, an iconic issue. The ways in which they were like the ways in which this particular edition kind of like props up women and is talking about the different ways in which women's, bodies can represent. It's just, there's so much going on that they're putting at the forefront that I think the WNBA represents. I'll leave it at that. And so I think all of us were really excited.
Oh, that's awesome. Wait, do you see the pictures come out? Are you like examining them closely?
I already saw them.
Yeah, you did. Did they let you choose, or how does that work?
No, you don't choose, but you're like, we already saw all. I've seen like every picture I took in those 2 days.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was like,
you like the cover they chose?
Yeah, that was, we only did a couple of group shots. We went down to St. Thomas there for like 3 days. One day was all 5 of us together on a boat, like a yacht, went out on the water and took all the group photos, like in different places on the yacht. There's a couple of them where we're like jumping in the water, like doing different things. We'll see what actually comes out when the magazine comes out.
Yeah.
And then like Stewie and NECA had gotten there the day before. So they did their solo shoot the first day. Then we did the group shot, the 5 of us. And then me, Tia, Taya, and Dee Dee, we stayed and we did our solo shoots together, like at the same stuff. Yeah.
When you do the yacht shoot, are you guys like drinking during it? Are you like partying during the shoot or?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They have everything's available if you want it.
That's fun though. So was
that? Oh yeah, we had a great time. Honestly, this was a great group. I had a great time just hanging. Like more than anything, yes, it's amazing to have these pictures. They came out great. I think we all look wonderful. Again, I love what it represents. But the memories I have from the trip, it was a lot of fun just hanging out with everybody.
I saw one of the videos from Dee Dee online, and she was talking about like how she didn't sleep the night before because she was like excited, but then also because the call time is so early. And I remember texting with you during that, and you being like, "Yeah, I have to wake up at it was like 3 a.m. or something like that."
Yep, 3 a.m. because you have to get your hair and makeup done, and then you have to be like there when the sun comes up because they have to. You only and you can't. I didn't know this, but you can't, it's difficult to capture in like the lunchtime hours. So let's call it 11 to 1, like somewhere in there because the sun's like almost too bright, like at its like tippy top. So you want to get it like maximum sun exposure. So right when the sun comes up, you got to get out there, then you get your lunch break and then you wrap it up until the sun goes down.
Are you napping during your lunch break?
I mean, no. I think at that point you're just kind of on a high anyways.
Yeah, it's adrenaline.
And you're also like really monitoring what you're putting in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Well, I do remember because you were in New York. I know what it was. Remember I was going to Forge like the night before you were leaving?
Oh yeah, and you were like, and I was like cookies. I was like, nah, I'm good, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
You want some 8-minute cookies? Not tonight.
It wasn't the night. It wasn't the night for that. It wasn't the night.
No. But I'll tell you what. The minute that photo shoot ended, there was like a big dinner we went to. Oh, Smash City!
Crushed everything.
Everything in sight.
It's so funny. Isn't that like? It's so interesting because I do feel like most athletes I know, they're so not all, but like they're so structured with how they have to be at certain times that like when the switch is flipped and it's like, oh, it's go time. It's like, I'm crushing. And I'm built that way too. Despite not being an athlete, it's like, if I'm locked in, I'm going to have like, a very high level of discipline. The second in my mind, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, you let go.
Oh gosh, just crush,
Right?
Yeah.
It's like kind of a lot of athletes, I think, were like trained. Like from an early age, it's kind of like all or nothing a little bit. So it's like, you're either all disciplined or you're like going crazy. It's there's never like a in between. Rarely in between.
You're a couple games into the 2022 WNBA season. Have in your mind, have you been feeling like, oh, this is my final season. This feels different. Has everything felt the same? Have you been taking things in differently? How have you sort of experienced it thus far?
It's interesting. I have not much has changed. I think I came into the season. So the viewers, so I can catch the listeners up.
Yeah, catch them up, Sue. Catch them up.
This is the way I've been explaining it. This is like more than likely my last year. I'm approaching it that way. I've left this small little crack open in the event that something changes, because I think when you're an athlete, and I'm sure Tom Brady probably went through this, but to be honest, I was definitely one of those people that when he like undid his retirement, I wasn't surprised by that. I feel like, because I think if you're an athlete and you still think you have more in the tank, actually the better way to describe it is, once you walk away, that's it. You can never go back. And there's some people, and I'm sure like we've talked to Cece a bunch about this. I remember watching Tina Thompson when she retired. Some people just know. They know it's their last year. Like whether they play amazing or not, whether they're healthy or not, like they just know. And that's great. And I think there's some of us that are kind of like, oh, we still can do it. And once you do stop, it's done. It's over. You can never go back. So that's why I'm leaving a little bit of a crack. But I'm like pretty sure it's my last year. So, I know that confuses everybody and it probably makes it difficult to talk about for the media. I apologize, but
yeah, thanks.
It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. You guys love to live.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's your life, not ours. Do you have an idea of like what would have to transpire for you to play another year? Or are you just like leaving it open just in case you're like at the end, you're like, you know what? No, I want to do this again.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah. So what I have kind of noticed in these first couple weeks, there's no changing of the approach. Like it's like ingrained in how I do this and how I approach this and how I treat a season, and I can't like break a 20-year habit. It's just too difficult. So my approach hasn't changed. There are times where I'm like, it's just a game, enjoy it. Like these are fans. This is great. Like enjoy it. Or this could be your last like team that you're on. Enjoy those moments, of course. So I'm like noticing that within, like in the in-between moments, but for the most part, it feels like any other year in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. I'm glad you're taking a little moment to notice some things and enjoy some things. I can remember during Derek Jeter's final season, him talking about that, and his dad talking to him about that. Like, because he very much like you. Like, if I think of sports figures who I associate with winning, you and Derek Jeter are two of the first, 5-6 people I think of. I think of Jordan. I think of Tom Brady. But you guys, there's something about the way you all are that's just like, no, those are winners. And I think winners are a super. There's a super select programming, right? Where it's like you're so just like drilled. What you're talking about? Like you only know one way to do this, right? You're so drilled that it's like if I lose track of focus, like I'm not going to be able to do what I do. And I thought it was good that like Derek actually said he did find ways to, actually appreciate parts of the journey and soak it in a little bit more. So I'm glad, even if it's not,
I'm working on that part.
Yeah, I'm glad there's at least little, because I have to believe there's a way for you to stay locked in, but still have little moments of sort of appreciation.
Yeah. I'm like navigating that. I'm doing my best. I think more than anything, it's like what I said. It's just, how do you break a 20+ year habit or like a 20+ year mindset? Like this is, even when I think of retirement, that's going to be, I'm going to have to like develop a whole new life in some ways, just because it was really easy last year, to be honest, even though very quickly after the season ended last year and the fans chanted one more year, as we've all seen, very quickly, I woke up the next couple of days and very quickly I knew that I probably was going to come back. But even then it was easy to come back because it's like, I know how this off season works. I know what this looks like. I know what my schedule is. I know how to operate within this, so it's just falling right back into a routine that I've been doing. So yeah, it's hard to break that. But I'm figuring out.
What do you think the thing is, or is there something that excites you most when you think about life after basketball? When you think about, I'm not going to be preparing for a season?
I don't know, because I think the answer I'll give you is probably the same things that I'll miss. So it's a little bittersweet. I think there's some parts of what makes, being on a team sport so great is like all the cliche things. Yeah. They're cliches because they're true. It's like the journey, the process, the coming together as a team, the grind, right? Like what do people always say? It's like the hard stuff is what makes it great. But all that hard stuff is hard, the stress of it, the pressure to win. I remember when the Olympics ended last year and, our national team was going for its 7th gold medal in a row. We're in a bubble in Tokyo. It was just like a lot. And when that was over and I knew that was going to be like my final USA basketball experience, there was a little relief, like, oh gosh, now I don't have to go to bed at night stressed about winning a gold medal. You know what I mean? It's nice to let go of that, but I'm also it's going to be the same things that I miss.
It's such a weird juxtaposition. It's kind of the character who plays Jerry West on Winning Time, which I know Megan has been watching, but you need to catch up on. He has a conversation with Magic Johnson about it and how, like, in the show, whether or not this happened in real life, I have no idea. I know Jerry's suing, but I feel like Jerry needs to watch the entire season because he actually turns into like one of the main protagonists who you're really rooting for. So, Jerry, I know it didn't start good for you, but I think you're gonna like it if you stick with your character. But he talks about that very thing about how, like, he's like, it's something to the effect of like, I've been miserable for all of these years. Yeah. and yet being outside of it, I can't stand a second of being outside of it, and it's a drug. It is.
It is a drug. It is a drug. It totally is. And sometimes I've said in the past when people have asked about like doing TV or live sports, right? And the beauty of your job
Yeah.
and those around you, this could be a nice segue. The beauty of it is it's live. So it does get your juices going because you're live. You can't take it back, but it's not quite the same.
No,
it's not quite the same. So it's like, as an athlete, you're never going to be able to get that again.
That I always think of, and I've had these conversations with you about the finality of it all. And like, I think I've even brought up this reference maybe to you before, but the president of Fordham, Father McShane, when I was a senior graduating, and he's one of the best orators I've ever heard in my life. And I love good speeches. Like I'll go down YouTube rabbit holes just looking for great speeches. And he gave this speech on my, on commencement day. And he started the whole speech before he got into kind of like his point of it all by like giving this really sobering, almost like heart-piercing reality of it being
It'll never
over.
be like this again.
Yes. And he was kind of just like, it is done. Everything you've experienced here for the last 4 years, you will never experience again. Like, and he went through beat by beat by beat. And I was just like, well, I mean, it kind of made you feel bad. I knew what he was doing, but like, it made you feel it. It made you feel the magnitude of it, and there is something that I think is important for any athlete to appreciate about that, in the sense of like, it, no matter what you do in your life, it will never feel like this. That doesn't mean it's going to feel better or worse. It just is different. Yeah.
It's just different. It's just different. Yeah. The one thing I don't do, the one thing I don't think I'll do this whole season, I actually don't believe in the like, play this game like it's your last. Because first of all, that's bullshit. It's impossible. Because if you play something like it's your last, you're going to be out there with your hair on fire.
Yeah.
And that's like not sustainable. That feeling of it's your last, I personally, like, maybe it's just for me, I don't find that to be sustainable. Yeah. It's like not a sustainable physical state. It's not a sustainable mental state. So it's like that I'm not doing. Like, we're in Phoenix right now. I actually think we come back here, so this wouldn't be the best example, but I can't just be like, this is my last time at the Kimpton Hotel in Phoenix. Like, who can live like that every day? And I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
About like, oh, this was your last first day of training camp. I didn't even think of it until a reporter asked me.
Yeah.
Cause like, how can I live like that? It's my last second day. It's my last third day. Like, that's not sustainable. So that's like definitely one thing I'm not doing.
Yeah. You would blow your emotional load really early if you, I know that's too much. And I think that also like some of that then becomes manufactured. Like the important laughs, they're just going to hit you to a certain degree, definitely. Like it's just going to be like, oh, wow, and it's not going to be something that you have to manufacture in any way. But it's interesting. And it's just where being an athlete is so different, it's just and to your point about like broadcasting and it being live, I used to always say like what drew me into doing play-by-play was I used to say, it's the closest thing to that feeling of the energy and the rhythm of the game. If you're not playing or coaching, right. Like, if you're not going to play or coach, why do I love play-by-play? Cause I love that, like, when I'm calling a game, I can feel the rhythm of it in my voice and I can feel the energy of the action and the cadence of the action. I can feel it in me as I'm calling the game. Mm-hmm. Like there's a high to that, like it reminds me of when I used to like act in plays as a kid. There's just like, there's a high to that live performance that you can, that it's a crazy adrenaline rush. And when you get a great game, there's this high afterwards and, and it's to me the closest thing that for me that I felt other than experiencing sports, which I obviously only did until, my early 20s. Right.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed are you as a commentator when the game's a blowout?
What's funny? It depends on the... It depends.
Or are you like, hey, I get to talk more?
No, never.
Okay.
I will take The only time I'm okay with a blowout is like, let's say I've called a bunch of games in a row and my voice is tired. Then I'm like, all right, I'll take a blowout today. Like I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for example, like when the final 4 games that we just had, where they weren't like bad games, but they just weren't, especially after the Elite Eight games that we had, the Elite Eight game that we had in Bridgeport, double OT, first ever in Elite Eight or later. And then even the Sweet 16 games we had were great with like Notre Dame and NC State and that drama.
Oh, yeah.
So then to go to the Final Four, and there was so much amazing attention around those games, and you could feel the audience, and everything feels big, and you prepare your ass off, and there's just like a high going into it. And then when the game isn't great, it's like kind of this feeling of like, I have all this, pent up energy I need to let go somewhere, so it's disappointing in those kind of moments.
We should have looped you guys into the BTS show.
You should have. We could have
let
it go. We could have let it go. Did you enjoy doing that with D?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I think the craziest part of it was just like, I've obviously done like enough TV where I know how it goes.
Yeah.
Like I understand the flows and the countdown in your ear. And so like, I'm not like so unfamiliar with that, where this was just like, whoa, what is this? But at the same time, both of us are like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. and they're just like gave us mics and we're like, what's up? And they're like, and this is what we're going to do for the opening. A couple of times I was like, D, do you want to take it to commercial this time? I just got like the aggressive head nod, so I'm like, I've actually been that person, so I get it.
Yeah.
But otherwise it was great. Other than the fact that we didn't know what the hell we were doing, which I think played well to it all.
Yeah.
We had a blast. It was like, bringing on the guests, doing it on Zoom, interviewing people can be like hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we didn't really have a plan on what we wanted to ask. We just like went with it. And I think that actually made it easier for us. It took pressure off. I think when you have like something like a schedule you're trying to follow, that's where you're trying to get things in, you're trying to move things around. For us, we just literally got to go out there and wing it. And I think it made it fun. And of course, Dee's hilarious. And we had great guests. So all in all, it wasn't really about basketball. That's like the one thing that was like kind of, but we asked ESPN, we're like, so like, do you want us to talk about the game? And they're like, I mean, if you can squeeze it in, go for it. I'm like, okay.
Well, because if anyone's like really intent on being into each possession, then they're watching our broadcast, right?
Yeah, that's
like
true.
that.
Yeah.
That's why there's something to serve both audiences. Yeah. And you had a ton of great viral moments. Let me ask you, you have like in that show, you played the role of, point guard, traffic cop. Even if it was a looser format, you still were in charge of that.
Right.
And then sometimes you're playing the role of, shooting guard, right? Like where, let's say what you were on our pre and post game set for WNBA finals last year, right? Where someone's teeing you up and you just hit with the point. Do you prefer one role to the other on TV?
I'm not sure. I think the shooting guard role is easier in some ways because once you understand the like ebbs and flows of the TV part, and once you kind of like, and especially if you're talking about something, so when it was the WNBA, that was really easy for me because I'm so ingrained in all of it. I know everything about everything. Whereas when I do it for college, it's way more challenging because you have to like learn the teams and learn the players. I don't know it as well. So there's that. So in some ways that's easier because it's what makes it easier is that I've been interviewed my whole life. So this is just another version of being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So even for like someone like Dee, who's not on TV that much, and this wasn't what we did, that Bird and Taurasi show, she definitely wasn't being interviewed. Like she had to like say, we both had to say things on our own, but we're just very used to being interviewed. So when you go onto TV in that role, you're just being interviewed. It's just what you've always done. Whereas for me personally, because I don't know how to do like not play by play, like hosting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to host, I have to like learn new skills. And so obviously that's going to be more challenging. But I think if I feel like I know where you're going with this. So if my level of like skill was the same in both, I don't know. It depends. It depends on that skill level, like what makes it more challenging.
It's so interesting because as someone who is 99% of the time in the, driver's seat of hosting or point guarding, right?
Yeah.
Like when I would get, like when I was on the Michael K show for a year and I was our third man on the show, I loved it, but it almost felt like I was off. You know what I mean? Like it felt like I was just like on vacation as I'm on, but I just have to talk about things, not thinking at all. And you realize just how much of a mental burden it is to be, because like even now, right now it's a podcast, it's loose, and you and I are good friends, so it's not like hard to come up with things to talk about. But I'm always at least a little bit thinking, what am I going to talk about next? What am I going to bring up next? Like where are we going to go next with our conversation? And there's a tax on that, which get inside the box of a radio show with structured breaks, or even more so a television show with shorter periods of time and structured breaks. And it really consumes a lot of your mind.
Yeah, you're just constantly like jockeying in the back of your head, like navigating, and like you're constantly trying to think. I mean, even when we had the guests on, because we're not interviewers.
Right.
Like, and that I appreciate that is a whole other talent in and of itself. As people are talking, you're simultaneously trying to listen to what they're saying while thinking of what you're going to follow up with.
Yes.
And we had, Dee and I had like a good vibe or a good flow of like, I would ask a question, she would ask a question. So it's like, once you asked your question, you knew you were going to get one question off, if you will, to give you time to think.
Right.
And then, we had Bill Walton on there and he just asked himself questions. So that was a plus too.
Yeah. Well, he's known for that. He's known for that. And the good news is, Sue, if you stay in this business, we can all make Tom Brady money someday. So, let's do it. This is what I saw. 10 years, $375 million.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh. But you know what it is? It's a high barrier to entry, right? Because it's for him he's not taking that job unless it's something like that, like, so it's like, is he worth that? I don't know, but you're not getting him unless you pay him something like that, so, and for me, it's funny because people get a warped sense of like what the money's like in our industry then just because of a few, yachts floating around. They're like, wait, you didn't get the motorized blinds in your new house? No, I'm not making the Tom Brady money. Okay. But
honestly, get the motorized blinds.
You think so?
Yes.
Everywhere we're getting blinds?
Get motorized.
All right. You
will not, that is cut corners somewhere else.
Okay. I'm going to tell Andrea.
Don't eat organic for a month.
That's a good decision. But I do think there's like a rising tide raises all boats thing, for the industry at large, where I'm like, I see the money Tony Romo got and Joe Buck got and, Troy Aikman got and Tom Brady got. And I'm like, hell yeah, keep it going, fellas. Let's, because at some point shrapnel's going to catch some of us, That's
true. I also think football is just so unique in this commentating world. And I noticed it, ironically, from going on the ManningCast, right? Experiencing that, like going and kind of experiencing, I'll get to that in a second, experiencing that versus doing what was a version of a ManningCast, a MegaCast with me and Dee for basketball. So it's like football. And I think this is what makes, and obviously Tony Romo and Troy Aikman have like proven, even Dan Orlowski, like on ESPN, like they've proven the quarterback and the knowledge the quarterback has. This is like, this is a gift for all of us to be able to get in these guys' heads and like hear them talk about different things. Because let's be honest, even hardcore fans probably don't know how football really works. Like it's a very difficult sport to really understand. But so what I noticed right away was like, oh, football, it's a little slower. And every possession, Megan and I were just talking about this earlier, every possession, I always obviously go to basketball terms. Literally every time the ball changes possession, the team, it's the equivalent of like an end of quarter shot.
Yeah.
But it's happening every possession. So, okay, yeah, they might get a new set of downs, right? If they, go 10 yards in the first or second down, of course. But once that third down comes, which happens a lot, they're either, scoring or turning it over essentially, or getting another first down. But like that happens 1,000 times a game. So it's just like to have a quarterback be able to talk you through that every single possession is such a unique thing. And that's why and obviously because NFL has crazy TV deals and just crazy money as it is, I'm not surprised by this Tom Brady deal at all. I mean, we joked earlier. It's like people would turn on the TV to watch him do anything anyways. He's just like of that air.
It's funny because it's started to change the mold a little bit, like where, what we would always say is the only person who watches the game for the broadcaster is the broadcaster's mom. Like you're watching the game for the game, right? Like, so it's sort of like you don't credit broadcasters for the ratings. If the game is between two terrible teams and it's a dog shit game, you could have the greatest broadcast team of all time. People aren't going to tune in. But
no, it's changing.
It's changing a little bit. Yeah.
Snoop Dogg. I think Snoop Dogg's actually the best example of this. I would watch Snoop Dogg talk about anything. He did that boxing. I was like, I'd watch him talk about anything.
And you know what? You have this unique combination of these guys who are interesting, who you'd want to listen to regardless. And then they also have the credentials and skills and gift of gab to be able to talk about the game, so yeah.
To me, it was when Tony Romo called like over the top to Gronk and called a bunch of plays. That to me was the moment it probably changed everything.
Yeah.
For quarterbacks in the world of, and quarterbacks have been doing it. We just listed a bunch, but like that, I think I'll put everybody like, oh, dang. And now everybody wants to hear what quarterbacks they want to hear them call it.
Yeah.
Like literally predict the future.
And it's a great lesson on leverage too, right? Because ESPN really wanted Tony Romo. CBS didn't want to lose Tony Romo. Tony Romo got to name his price, and now boom, standard set and industry changed, forever probably. Sue, I know you got to go in a minute here. I want to ask you real quick, do you have any hot take you want to get off your chest about anything at all or the NBA playoffs?
God, pressure. Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I can't wait for the Knicks to be in the playoffs. Is that a hot take?
Yeah. Well, you're not alone there. I think there's a lot of people who have joined you in this. You had the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
It didn't last long.
No, it did. No, it didn't last long. No, the NBA playoffs have been amazing. There's no hot take here.
Yeah.
Injuries are always going to tell stories of how things unfold, sadly.
Your boy Lowry.
I know.
He's
back
Lowry.
now. He's getting back, right?
He is. Well, yeah, but he's out for game 5.
Oh, he is.
He came back and now he's out again. Yeah.
Yeah. So injuries always tell the story. Sadly, that's happening for the NBA players. It happens in the WNBA.
Yeah, it does. All right. I know you got to run to practice.
I get you. We have a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I gave myself a little cushion.
You did? Okay. Then I just want to ask you this. It's a podcast, so we can cut off mid thought if you got to run.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, it's the start of the WNBA season. There's a lot of buzz this year, which is great. We have a ton of games on ABC, whatever, including Saturday. I'll be there to do your game against Phoenix. How about, I should ask you about BG as well, just because I'm sure everybody's kind of, talking about this in a measured way because it's very sensitive trying to get her back here, obviously. But I wanted to ask you just first about the roster size stuff. Like there's a lot of talk about this right now, Sue, how hard it is to make a roster in the W. Draftees getting cut left and right. What are your overall thoughts about that in a way in which you can give it with the time constraints?
It's complicated. It's complicated because, a lot of people who are coming to the WNBA now and they see like 12 teams, 12 roster spots, and they don't necessarily understand we have a hard salary cap. So it's like, I think for a lot of people, it's hard to process, but like any league, it's like step by step, you go places within your CBA that allows for certain things. It's always a negotiation. So we are where we are because I think at some point you have to go through kind of like the mud to see what you actually need done. And so even though it's terrible that there's a lot of talent left on the table right now, people are seeing it, and players, coaches, GMs, the league itself, fans, people are talking about it. And now it'll help us maybe expand, right? Now there's going to be a buzz around expansion. There could be someone out there right now who picked up happened to read an article about it. And they're like, man, I need to get involved in WNBA ownership. You never know. So I guess my point is, like, even though it sucks in the moment for certain players, you kind of have to go through this part to see what you need to then, help things change. But to me, I would start with, I think an easy fix is having certain exceptions within our CBA, within like our free agency, where you can pay certain players and it not hit the cap, right?
Veterans minimum type thing.
Yeah. And that gives maybe it's not technically a soft cap at that point because it's only like one person a team. And there's actually, I want to say first of all, a lot of leagues do this, but I want to say the NWSL might do it. I forget who I was talking to recently where, I know what it was. The Australian league does it, where they have a salary cap, but they're allowed to have one player that they can pay whatever. And it doesn't hit. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Right. So if that were the case, it would allow for more maneuvering within the cap so you could keep people, because the talent's only getting cut because of the money, because of the convenience of it. So the next level of that after exceptions would be just to some of this you have to have certain exceptions because of the hard cap. But to me, it's like Stewie actually tweeted about this, maybe having practice players. Do we go the route of a quote unquote G League, which for us, I think how it would look is like the 3x3, which is becoming really big. Does that serve as sort of like a G League where you can pull players from it and they can stay? Because what's happening is the really, shitty part is that these players that are getting cut, they're not around WNBA teams. They're not around WNBA players. And so their talent can't develop the same.
Right.
It's just not the same. They can go overseas and develop it. But it pays dividends to be on WNBA rosters, even if you don't play. It's why in the NFL they have the practice squad. Like, it matters. And so we have to get to that place.